That time Rimuru got a daughter. By Asora09. The teddy bear incident. Shizu's perspective. It has been some time since I had departed with Aren's party and entered the forest. We were heading into the place where the storm dragon Veldora was supposed to be sealed. Or well, to be more precise, that was the goal of the party of adventurers I was accompanying. It is not like I will intentionally disturb their plans, but my true objective definitely lies somewhere else. Finding that man, Demon Lord Leon Cromwell, one of the people who stood at the top of this world, and the reason for why I am here in this world. He summoned me when I was just a child, when I was about to die back in my previous world. That said, that does not truly mean he saved me. No, actually it does. I wouldn't be here right now, walking through this forest, if not for him. His methods were cruel and ruthless. He took a young girl like me, at that time, and turned me into a warrior against my will. I killed on his behalf countless times, crimes which I had to atone with years of self-loath and regret. Yet, despite all that, I cannot bring myself to hate that man. Even though I suffered nameless times due to his actions, I gained some good memories in this world thanks to the life he saved. I met the hero, who took me under her wing. I became a teacher and, hopefully, helped many children, like Hinata and Yuki. They have turned into successful people, although that is most likely due to their own latent talent rather than to my time as their teacher. I would have liked to continue teaching, honestly. However, Ifrit residing inside of me is going out of control. I guess the passage of time has been wearing off my ability to keep him under check. Even the mask I constantly wear cannot contain him anymore. No, but that's not it. I have to leave them. I had to leave my students in order to go and search for something. I have to search for that man. He was able to save me, and so I am sure he would be able to save them as well. Kenya, Ryota, Alice, Gale, Chloe. As I was thinking that, I started listening to a loud noise that was coming toward me from deeper into the forest. I turned around to warn Aren and the others, but they're nowhere to be seen. I turned my head in all directions searching for them, but I could see nobody. When did we get separated? Was I so immersed in my thoughts that I ended up randomly wandering in the forest? I was pondering the possibilities in my head as the noise around me got louder. Exclamation mark quote. For a moment, I thought I could hear a voice calling out to me from deeper inside the forest, from where all the disturbance came from. I focused my senses to sharpen my hearing, and as I was doing that, the voice became clearer each time. Zoo. Sure Zoo. That voice had definitely called out my name just now. The owner was still out of my line of sight, behind countless trees, but I recognized that voice. It hadn't been too long since the last time we had spoken, after all. Aren. I called out that name as I narrowed my eyes to try to get a glimpse of the inside of the forest. The ground began to shake. Small pebbles that were peacefully lying in the ground a few seconds ago were now jumping about all over the place. I could also see several flock of birds fleeing from the trees at a hurried pace. The sound got louder each time, the voice became clearer too, but that wasn't all. I could also listen to what sounded like huge footsteps. I raised my guard, placing a hand on my sword at my waist. Shirzu. Rune. A very freaked out Aren ran out of the forest with Kaval and Guido in tow. No, that wasn't all. From behind them, I could see several gigantic ants desperately chasing behind them. My eyes widened as Aren and the others passed by me. The next moment, I regained my senses with a and turned around to follow behind them. WWAAAAIT. What's this about? I yelled as I quickened my pace to prevent the ants from catching up to me. Ha ha ha. Why are you laughing? Aren simply laughed as a response to my question. It can't be that they did something very foolish, right? I turned toward Kaval and Guido, and even though their faces were facing forward, I could somehow feel that they were averting their eyes. Still, this can't remain as is. I stopped in my tracks as I wielded my sword, and turned around to face the ants. There were 4 of them. It hadn't been even a minute since I had started running, but I had noticed how the distance between them and us was gradually shrinking. If we continued running like that, they would have catched up to us eventually. Therefore, I had to take these ants out right now. Still, it wasn't such a good option doing that as well. If I fight right now, the odds of Ifrit taking control are incredibly high. I could also flee by myself, but I really do not want Aren and the others to die here. Having made up my mind, I strongly gripped the handle of my sword and prepared to go on the offensive. I could hear how Aren and the others had stopped running too, perhaps shocked at my actions. Even so, I did not turn around to look at them, nor did I speak a single word. I simply reinforced my determination and changed my body into a stance to deliver the first blow. At that moment, Purudator, I could hear a childish voice coming from my right. The ants noticed the voice as well and turned to look for the source, but at that moment, something appeared in both of our lines of sight. The thing that appeared looked like a large blanket that was colored with a dark shade of red, but it was pretty clear that the thing was nothing of the type. The thing extended itself over the air, to a size that couldn't be called small anymore, and began floating forward, completely ignoring the laws of gravity. In less than a few seconds, the thing was thrown over the ants, wrapping them as if they were presents. I could only stare at it wide-eyed. Then, it suddenly disappeared from sight, along with the ants and a few trees who were unfortunately caught in the process. I turned to my right, and saw a little girl with bright red hair and eyes that were as purple as amethysts. She appeared to be no older than 4 or 5 years old, and was staring deep into the forest as if waiting for someone. "Papa, Mama, I did it," she exclaimed, and in the next second, 2 more figures appeared from within the trees. They were 2 beautiful women, one with bluish silver hair, and another one with bright silver hair that had strokes of red here and there. The little girl started running toward them with her hands stretched out forward. "Sweetie, stop, honey, don't do that." The 2 women made a worried face as they moved to the side while yelling. The little girl stopped moving and tilted her head curiously, but in the next instant, the place where the women were previously standing was covered with the same thing that had wrapped the ants previously, and the trees within a 15-meter radius from that area disappeared. "Ah," the little girl said as she turned around, but then again, the area of trees lying in the direction she just turned to disappeared as well. It could be clearly seen that the thing that had made many things disappear up till now was originating from a type of vortex that resembled a black hole more than anything. Not only did everything that was covered by that deathly blanket disappear, but also everything seemed to be pulled in towards the vortex in the girl's hand. Papa, noticing the destruction that she was causing, tears started appearing on her face as she turned to look at the blue-haired woman. Of course, her hand was also pointed toward the woman, and it could be seen how the color was draining from her face. "Really? Turn it off," the blue-haired woman said as she and the silver-haired one dodged from the place. "Sniff, not possible, Papa," the little girl shouted as she sank down to her knees with a pool of tears in her eyes. Of course, the vertex was still on her hand as she did that, so the area in front of her continued turning into a wasteland at an incredible pace. Perhaps because of her declining emotional state, the vertex increased in potency even further, increasing its range of effectiveness into what appeared to be 30 meters or so. Seeing how the forest was quickly disappearing, the blue-haired woman's face turned completely pale, even though she continued dodging at an incredible speed. "Seal. Force shut release Predator right now www. The woman shouted as she turned to look at the silver-haired woman. "Understood, darling." They seemed seriously panicked, but in the next moment, the vortex of destruction in the little girl's hand began to slowly disappear. Once it was completely gone, all 3 of them sighed simultaneously in relief. "It was a good attempt, but you must not allow it to go out of control, okay honey?" The one who said so was the silver-haired woman as she approached the little girl and patted her head. "Sniff, yes mama. Sniff," the little girl said as she looked down to the ground, perhaps saddened at the destruction she had caused. "Yes sweetie, it's just as your mother said, okay. But don't worry about it. You will eventually master it. You are my daughter, after all," the blue-haired woman said as she kneeled in front of the little girl and patted her head. The little girl finally raised her head toward the woman and nodded with a smile. "Yes, I'll do my best, Papa. I have been thinking about it for a bit, but is that blue-haired person actually a woman? The little girl has been referring to that person as Papa, so it is probable that I am the one in the wrong thinking that she is a woman." As I was thinking that and stared directly at them, the blue-haired person finally noticed that we were here, and stood up with the little girl carried in one of their arms. The silver-haired woman also started following beside them. "Ah, hello there. My name is Rimuru Tempest, and these people here are my wife Seal and my daughter Really. Also, just in case, I am not a woman. I know it sounds weird to say such a thing, but I am often confused with one, so I just wanted to make it clear beforehand. Now, who might you be?" Once we were in conversational range, the blue-haired person made their introduction. Furthermore, he really isn't a woman. There was something that was unsettling from seeing his face. It is as if I had already seen it somewhere before, but leaving that aside, it was surprising that he was a man. I mean, his bodily features simply look more feminine than masculine, especially that long blue hair. If he claimed that he was a woman, nobody would doubt it for a second. Still, there was something weird with these people. The little girl had not only defeated the giant ants in seconds, but she also made half of the area surrounding us disappear. Yet, I couldn't feel anything from her. It was as if she was a normal little girl, that she clearly is not. Furthermore, if the individuals named Rimuru and Seal are her parents, then that could also mean that they are much stronger than her. That was also supported by the fact that, even though I don't know how, the individual named Seal seemed to be the one who stopped the little girl's vortex. My name is Shizu, and the people behind me are Aren, Kaval, and Guido. I eyed them wearily with my hand still on my sword's handle. The guy called Rimuru turned his gaze toward my sword, as if to say, "Are you letting it down, or?" I decided to take this chance to test something out. More specifically, to identify this individual's strength and intentions. He doesn't seem to be hostile toward us, so this might be counterproductive. It might put him against us, but if he proved to be strong indeed, then I could use myself as a decoy to allow the others to escape. I looked toward Aren, Kaval, and Guido for a second, and they simply nodded. I think they understood what I was thinking. Seeing this, I could see the figure in front of me sighing, and in the next moment, the little girl had disappeared from his arms and appeared in the arms of the woman named Seal. Teleportation. I widened my eyes for a second, but quickly left behind my shock and swung my sword toward him. Cling, a sound could be heard. It was not the sound that came from metal and metal entering into contact, or from the blade of a sword cutting through flesh. It was more similar to the sound of a bell, probably originated from the vibration that ran through the sword the moment that I swung it. My eyes widened in shock, and I could see from the corner of my eye how Kaval and Guido, who were also swordsmen, stood shocked as well. That was because the man named Rimuru had easily caught my sword between two of his fingers. I immediately sensed it. The difference in speed. I left behind my shock and tried to retrieve the sword, but his two fingers didn't budge an inch. The overwhelming strength. I stared at him, and he simply sighed again before releasing my sword. He looked troubled. I eyed him warily, and just as I was going to try to talk things out, two people rushed ahead of me and directed their swords toward him. Kaval and Guido, who had been watching idly before, both swung their swords toward him at the same time, but just as their attacks were about to reach, a clang echoed through the forest. In Rimuru's hand, there was now a long jet-black sword. Everything, from the handle up to the blade, was clad in black. He had it on an inverse grip, with his arm extended toward the sky and the blade of the sword pointing to the ground. Kaval and Guido's sword slashes had been beautifully parried in a way that could perhaps be called artistic. The difference in skill. I want to use a sword like Papa too. Maybe later on. I could hear the little girl and the woman named Seal having a conversation from behind Rimuru. The little girl's eyes were sparkling as she pointed toward the sword in Rimuru's hand, while the woman named Seal answered with a troubled expression. I am not fighting, seriously, yet, for that could cause Ifrit to go out of control, but even so, I can feel it. I can feel that the man standing in front of me is definitely someone out of my league. That he stood at a summit that even I, fighting together with Ifrit, could not reach. My face paled the moment I understood that, even if I worked as a decoy, there still was no way I could hold him back long enough for Aren and the others to escape. I turned my gaze toward his golden eyes. He still doesn't appear to be hostile. Perhaps. I suddenly felt a gush of wind pass me by, and when I returned my gaze toward Kaval and Guido, I saw how they were both blown away. They stood up on the spot and turned to look at each other. In the next moment, they nodded before removing the bracelets that each of them had in their left arm. I was about to speak out, but, Lady Aren, Ms. Shizu, retreat. This guy is a monster. Indeed, leave him to us, we'll buy you some time. Kaval and Guido said as they readied their stance to attack Rimuru once again. I don't know why Kaval suddenly addressed Aren with so much respect, but I didn't pay any attention to that and rather focused on them. They seemed somehow different now, as if the presence around them had gotten fiercer. Was it, that bracelet? It was a simple conjecture, but I am sure that something is different from before. Author's note: it is not too well explained in the light novel, but I think I remember that Errol mentioned something about Kaval and Guido actually being very strong, but that in order to appropriately fit in with the other adventurers, they wore something that sealed their strength. That strength would remain sealed unless Aren was in imminent danger. That is what happened right now. I imagined those sealing devices being the bracelets, and so they took them off to properly defend Aren from Rimuru, who they had deemed to be a menace. Wait, maybe he doesn't want to fight, is what I was about to say, but I was too late. Caval and Guido launched forward once again, delivering sword blows from different angles and positions. Their speed was much greater than before, and their blows seemed to carry much more strength. Yet, it was useless. The black sword moved around just like a leaf being carried by the wind, naturally blocking all of the attacks as they kept coming. Papa, beat them up. I could hear the cheering of the little girl that came from behind Rimuru. My, I am not sure how I should react to my daughter wanting her papa to beat up someone. The silver-haired woman had a troubled expression on her face, and I couldn't help but smile wryly from under my mask. Yeah, I would think the same thing if I was in your position. After several dozen seconds, Caval and Guido fell back while clicking their tongues and breathing heavily. It was clear that their performance had improved since their first attack, but even so, it wasn't strange for their stamina to plummet after exchanging so many blows in such a short period of time. Furthermore, the feeling of fighting a mountain, someone unshakable and intimidating, is surely wearing them off mentally as well. Lady Aren, what are you still doing here? Run away. We'll be right behind you. Guido said, his gaze still on Rimuru. But don't worry about us. You must get to safety right now. No, I won't run away. Aren readied her staff, pointing it toward Rimuru. Alright, we will have to get through this together. Hey, guys. Everybody ignored my comment. Yeah, then, let's beat up this bastard and go home together. Caval showed a fearless smile. Excuse me, may I say some? Yes, let's do it. Everyone appears to have renovated their determination, but they are still ignoring me. I was drooping a bit, but I had to get a hold of myself almost immediately after, for Caval and Guido rushed at Rimuru once again while Aren started launching icicles toward him from the backline. Rimuru had a pained expression on his face as he defended. First, he extended his left hand forward, and in the next moment a fissure appeared in the air, consuming all of the icicles coming at him. What? Is that the attack of that little girl? No. Is that how the refined version of that little girl's attack should look like? Aren appeared to be equally shocked, but that wasn't all. With his free hand, Rimuru gripped the blade of Caval's sword and closed his hand, reducing the weapon to mere metal fragments. Guido was shocked for a second, but continued with his attack nonetheless, directing a vertical upward slash toward Rimuru's flank. In response, Rimuru simply raised his foot a bit and stepped on the sword, pinning it down to the floor. Guido struggled with it a bit, but the sword did not budge, so he decided to abandon it and retreat along with Caval, who now had a bladeless sword. Wow, he is so amazing. I'm falling in love all over again. I thought for a second that the person who said that was the little girl, but when I turned to look at the two people who had been commenting on the match from the other side, I saw how now it was the turn of the silver-haired woman, Seal, to have sparkling eyes, and of the little girl to have a troubled face while looking at her. Mama, you are noisy. Ouch. The little girl puffed out her cheeks and pouted, while the silver-haired woman clenched the left side of her chest, as if her heart ached. So Mama is too noisy. Her eyes were losing light. You bastard. Not moving from your spot and refusing to fight back, are you looking down on us? As if to return everybody to reality, Caval tightened the hold of his sword handle and gritted his teeth. I turned to look at Rimuru to gauge his reaction, and he looked troubled. Deeply troubled. Everyone. I am not looking down on anybody, okay? He said, sounding a bit nervous. Then why are you toying with us? You bastard. Guido replied angrily. I am not toying with you, it's just that, you know. I have no intention of fighting any of you. Makes sense. I was the only one of my party who instead of widening my eyes in confusion, sighed tiredly instead. It makes sense. Such a formidable opponent could have ended with all of us in mere seconds if he wanted to. He was never hostile towards us. Rather, we were the ones being hostile toward him. Allow me to reintroduce ourselves. My name is Shizu, and these are Caval, Guido, and Aren. I apologize for having attacked you out of the blue, I just wanted to test out your intentions. I bowed my head deeply, the other three followed my example and did so as well. Well, I will accept your apology. He looked toward his back and did a movement with his head as though inviting the two people behind him to come closer. Once they were close enough, he continued. Allow me to reintroduce us as well. My name is Rimuru Tempest, and these right here are. I am really Tempest, his daughter. The little girl, really, said as she waved her hand at us with a bright smile. I am Seal Tempest, his wife. The next to introduce herself was Seal, who had beautiful red eyes and smooth silver hair. She gave a light bow to all of us before taking a step back, perhaps to pass the leadership to Rimuru-san. I see, then, Rimuru-san, Seal-san, Rayla-chan, it's nice to meet you. After that, the rest of the people in my party exchanged greetings as well. From the corner of my eye, I could see how Caval and Guido had picked up the bracelets they had dropped earlier and placed them on once again. Now, I would like to keep talking, but we are all tired, so let's go to the village so we can rest a bit, okay? Rimuru-san said as he took Rayla-chan from Seal-san's arms and started making his way through the forest. I could hear somebody saying, did you see that, really? Papa was so cool, right? Yup. Papa was awesome, and, my, you two are so troublesome, but I ignored those voices as I recalled what Rimuru-san just said. Village. Here, in this forest full of monsters. Not only that, but with such a high density of magicules. Humans would normally die in such an environment, wouldn't they? Rimuru-san, did you say village just now? Good, it looks like I am not the only one that thinks this is odd. I did. It's not too far off, it won't take long to get there. But, a village, in such a place. Isn't this a dangerous place for us humans to be? How can there be people living here? Well, yeah, I guess you could say it's somewhat dangerous, but it's not a big problem for us in the village. I tilted my head at his statement. We are all monsters, after all.